2. I'm surprised to see so many people here on day 2, actually. I'm not supposed to announce this, but don't we have a door prize? 45-foot Octocat blow up. Somebody here is going to get it to take home. I'm trying to actually get that myself. Halloween decoration for the front lawn, 3 kids. I think that would go over well. Yeah, it'd be great. So thanks for coming, day 2. And as you all heard, my name's Jason. I'm the Senior Vice President of Technology here at GitHub. I joined 4 months ago, so it's been a pretty exciting 4 months. Before GitHub, I was at a place called Heroku inside Salesforce working on a public cloud. Before Heroku, I was at a company called Canonical, the makers of Ubuntu Linux, in charge of the Ubuntu desktop. So if you look back on my career so far, there's a pretty common theme that emerges. And it's developers, developer infrastructures, developer experiences, and the things that they use on a day in, day out basis and the tools that make them successful. So when I met Chris for the first time a while back and we started talking about the future of software, I couldn't think of a better place to come next than GitHub. And it just so happened that Chris kind of had that same opinion, which I'm very thankful for. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to develop the future of software with everyone in this room and everyone watching and anyone who thinks that software is an important aspect of the future, which I think we would all agree, since we're here, is a good, safe bet. It's better than Bitcoin, I feel like, at this time. But yeah, so I'm here, 4 months in, having a lot of fun. And like many of you, I am a longtime GitHub user. I signed up in 2008. I've been happily paying since 2009. It's been very good to me. I'm still paying. I kind of think that somehow $9 a month is actually going to my salary. Feels pretty natural to do that. Small price to pay. So now that I'm here inside GitHub, what do I think about? I still think about the future of software. I think about developers every day. I think about internal GitHub developers. I think about external GitHub developers. I think about people who aren't on GitHub yet. And I think about what it means to be a developer 5 years from now and 10 years from now. And I couldn't be more excited to talk about that stuff today. So before we go any further, let's look back at what we talked about yesterday. So yesterday we announced a couple of interesting things: the redesigned newsfeed, a new dependency graph, and security alerts. And these are the first steps into understanding more code that powers everything that we do in our ecosystem and on our platform. Now, each of these are generally useful by themselves, though if you know the context by which we made decisions to choose these 3 to announce yesterday, it becomes more interesting. So the context is that we really want to understand code and how to apply that understanding to software development in general. So the premise is, if AI and machine learning are such a big deal and data is so important, what if we turned it right back onto software development itself? What could we do? So we believe that with the right understanding at the data level, our code and our commits and our dependencies, we can truly reimagine what software development looks like. Now you pair that with our open ecosystem and our open platform, pull it together with our identity, and then we're really, really accelerating towards Chris's vision that he laid out yesterday. And we also think that that starts at GitHub first. If we challenge ourselves and we think that our goal is actually to change software development itself, how do we challenge ourselves to build in a different way? What do we do differently internally? And how do we create an open platform that we all have choice in? And that's something I really want to talk about right now, choice. So because from choice, opportunity expands. So I fundamentally believe why I got excited about software in the first place is because I always wanted to explore, find, build. I wanted to solve a problem. You kind of want to move in a different way. It's about doing things that you didn't think you could do, or breaking down barriers. It's just a lot of things that you just want to pull together. If we look at that video from earlier, that was an amazing testament to the power of choice and the power of opportunity. So we know that no one workflow works for everyone in this room. And we know that no one tool set works for everyone in this room. And we don't want to presume to know what's best for you in all contexts. So no one-size-fits-all solution is going to work for everyone. This is why choice is important. So we want to give developers those choices to help GitHub to its next phase. So let's take a look at what GitHub's next phase is really going to be about. It's going to start with our ecosystem. GitHub's ecosystem was built around choice and the ability for developers to solve their own problems. We saw this proliferate in the 5 or 6 years ago when all these tools and other programs and services started to hook into GitHub in ways that we never really thought about. And as you go further in that, we imagine new ways that's going to happen too. Well, you can't have an ecosystem without a platform. It's kind of like having a product with no customers or customers with no product. What are you going to do? So you have to put the platform in place. And the platform connects our ecosystem to the code. So thankfully, GitHub is already the world's leading software development platform. And yet, we can do more. So going forward, GitHub is going to be the platform for all of software development. What are we going to do? How are we going to behave differently? So over time, we're going to expose nearly every aspect of our platform out via APIs so that everyone can use the same tools, same data, and same access that we have. We like to say that if you're a GitHub developer, internal or external, you should have access to the same tools and information. This is taking a very intentional platform-first approach to the way we're going to build the future of GitHub. This means that you can build the tools that you need and share, and we won't limit you to any walled garden. In this platform-first approach, you, the developer, or an integrator, or a team, or an enterprise, are welcome to play with those same tools that we have access to, including our data. You've seen the start of this yesterday. And as we go more and further into this, we want to get more of that data out in front of people so you can build on that yourselves. Our intentional approach to the things that we announced yesterday was to show what's possible if we start exposing things out in many different ways. So we had one that was about discovering new content. We had one that was around security. We had one that was more personal. Different views on data. What else could we do together here? Our fundamental belief is that we are better together. We can build more of the future of software faster together. The last piece of this is the developer identity. This is what ties all of this together for us. It's the one thing that makes this personal and to ensure the ecosystem, platform, and data are all about the developer still. We want the developer front and center. We want you front and center. We want you to feel that this is for you. This is the platform for you to develop software. And this is what GitHub is uniquely positioned to do. We can give you all 4 of these aspects. We can give this to you to play with and to explore and to build and to see what is possible for you to do with us together. This is our mission. So as Chris pointed out yesterday, GitHub is celebrating its 10-year anniversary of the first commit. I think the exact date is October 18th. So what's happened in 10 years? Quite a bit in software. We've seen numerous software trends come and go. We've seen frameworks emerge, take over the #1 trending spot in GitHub, and completely die. We've seen new incumbents take over the space. JavaScript apparently is a real programming language. What endures, though, is people and wanting to solve problems. We want to make this easier. We want to make it easier to solve problems. And we're going to do that by building the enduring platform that allows us all to do that. We're not going to chase trends. We don't want you to chase trends. We don't want to chase these trends together. We want to build that enduring platform so that when the fashion of software does change, we don't have to fundamentally change everything that we do. I believe fundamentally you shouldn't have to change your software development platform if your CI workflow changes. That's the state of the current art. Let's not make that the future. At scale, oh, I skipped a slide. Do you mind going back one? Sorry. So this choice and this flow here is incredibly important to each individual developer in this room right now. Imagine what happens when you have to support hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of developers in an enterprise. Choices become more limited. You have to be more intentional and deliberate with those choices. One choice there can impact everybody. you have to take a long view at how you're going to do this. So we want to improve that through the platform as well. We want to build on an ecosystem, and we're going to collectively create that with everybody, the developers as well as the enterprises. And the good news is we've already seen some of this. We've seen our enterprise customers adopt this approach and understand why an enduring platform is a very valuable thing for them. And in a fun way for us is that we may not have expected as a SaaS company growing up on the internet using Ruby and Rails in 2007 and 8. The enterprise customers are some of the quickest adopters of things and some of our largest integrators at this point. Why is that? Well, they've got lots of developers inside. They have pretty specific infrastructure needs. They've got some additional security requirements and rather sophisticated workflows themselves. And so they're pretty intentional with how they're going to go about building their software. So GitHub's ecosystem and developer focus has made it easier for such enterprises to scale their software development needs. We've seen companies like Home Depot, IBM, and DXE use GitHub in their own digital transformations. And to talk a little bit more about that, I'm going to invite Joan Watson from DXE out to talk about their digital transformation. Joan?
Thank you, Jason. So yes, I'm Joan Watson. I'm from DXE Technologies. And DXE is really a marriage between CSC and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And interestingly enough, with the company coming together, our core services are really around end-to-end IT services, support and consulting from that perspective. So to tell you a little more about the company, we launched in April of just this year, and we are 170,000 employees. So a large startup, if you will, from that perspective. So interesting, as we talk about really what we're doing, as companies are trying to deliver solutions and you're under pressure to deliver faster, there's always this balance between your investments for innovation and what you're costing in the sense of run, right? So when you look at those things, you really want to focus most of your innovation, your investment on innovation, right? So you can deliver those services to your clients. So as we look at that, we started to take pause and realize that we wanted to make some shifts on our run investments versus our innovation. And so what we've done with that is we've kind of embarked on a digital transformation across the company. And as an IT company, sometimes IT you'll see is one of the last industries to make some of these digital transformation shifts that you have to make. So that's really what we're focused on. And a lot of what you heard yesterday as we talked about the collaboration and the ability to leverage the power of all the diverse ideas, that's really what we struggle in large companies to deal with. So I'll talk about the digital transformation, and I'll really steep that kind of in like 4 different areas. We'll talk about our open source strategy. We'll talk a bit about how we look at DevOps. We'll talk about platforms, and of course, we'll talk about culture. Let me talk a little bit about the open source approach that we're really taking within the company. So as you look at a company of like 170,000 people, you look at the ability of all those diverse knowledge bases, the experience, and all of that coming together. How do you make that come together so you can really look at that? And I think when you talk about how you have an open source experience within your company, I think you have to personalize it. And so when I personalize that, this is the color of my hair. I could tell you I dyed it, but but this is experience. But as I think about when I was a developer starting out and I tried to solve problems, I had the ability to leverage these forums, right? So I might be trying to work on some code to basically do something. I had the ability to go out into the internet and you'd go to these forums and you basically put in your snippet of code and what you're trying to do, and undoubtedly someone might be monitoring these forums, and it could be people from Africa, Vietnam, right there in your next door Palo Alto, or just all over the world. And I could come back the next day and I'd see someone or a number of people had commented on what I was trying to solve. And it gave me that leap that I needed, or maybe even solve the problem so I can continue what I was doing. So then I take that experience and how powerful that was for me, some time ago. But how do you do that within a company, right? And when we tried to do that years before, the technology really wasn't there. And so what we're seeing now is that the technology has caught up with all these ideas of innovation and collaboration, and that's really critical for us. So now I take that and I go, okay, I have 170,000 people. The biggest issue we have is that we've never been on the single plane of view, right? The ability to know what the guy is doing in Malaysia or what the gal is doing, in Malaysia. But now I can do that. I can have a Google-like experience within the company. And I have the ability to go into my GitHub root and I can search for kernels, I can search for bots, I can search for analytics and data models and things like that. So when I think about something like that, how powerful is that to be able to do something like that? I mean, I have the ability to harness the power of the enterprise real time. And I'm not having, and it's pretty easy. So we take on that and we realize the competitive advantage we have, right? And when you think about that type of thing and your investment in your workforce, your people are your most prized asset. But now how do you tie those people together? And so for us, it's really been how to corner the market with getting everything on a single plane of view. And that's why I'm so pleased with the ability that the technology has caught up, and that's why we're using GitHub. And that's why we're so big on collaboration in our company, because we realize we've kind of got the crown jewels in the company. So that's a big thing that we're taking serious in the company, is how do we collaborate and operate, where we know what's going on. Because the biggest issue, you don't often know what you don't know, right? But if you know that you're working on something, someone's working on the same thing, and how powerful is that to pull that together? So I'm preaching to the choir because you guys know this, but then you take that and you couch that between 170,000 employees. That's our strategic direction. The whole piece on collaboration is critical. Now, I can talk about this and I can describe this as a happy path, and we just do that and it just happens, right? It doesn't just happen that easy. So we have to essentially look at how do we do those things, how do we use bots and automation to have that awareness. I think the next thing we talk about is really our strategy to drive DevOps across the company. So with respect to the company, we're looking at how do we have the CI/CD? How do we have the automated testing? How do we essentially have all the built-in self-healing? So these are things that we do in our own backyard, right? So we're doing these things and really creating the platform for people to do that. And of course, all of that has to happen steeped within culture, because we can talk about tools, and I got to tell you, I've been around enough to change a number of tools for quite a long time. But when you just change tools for the sake of changing tools, you don't really get the outcomes that you need. So we realize there's a component of tools, and we really are steeping our platforms in tools and frameworks that are interchangeable, that we can really stay pace with the tools that are changing anywhere from 6 to 9 months, right? 6 to 9 months, you realize you got to switch something out, right? Technology is changing, and you often need to chase it or influence it to create the solutions to stay competitive in the market. So with those kinds of perspectives, we've essentially made the investments in platforms as well. And so we have a full court press across the company that ties out our dev cloud platforms, it clouds out our cultural shifts and those investments, where we're really working to instill these things within our workforce. Beyond that, we've got self-healing systems. If I didn't say analytics, we've certainly got the analytics built in. And it's just amazing now that we've kind of taken that platform approach, you kind of have the ability to allow people to get onto the innovation that they need to create, right? And that's really where we really want our workforce. So we're trying to create those platforms for people to be able to focus on what they've got to deliver for the client. And I think that's really exciting in terms of what's happening at DXE. I think the last thing I guess I want to just say as we talk about some of these things, yesterday was a pretty amazing day for me. I had a chance to go to some wonderful tracks and talk to different people. The collaboration that we do is something that we have to make sure that we do it everywhere, right? Whether you're doing big data and you've got data scientists, and those data scientists are creating data models for different, infrastructure or clients or different needs, right? We have to make sure we get ourselves out of the boxes that we tend to put ourselves into with collaboration. And so whether you're a data scientist in DXE or whether you're a developer developing an IT solution or a cloud strategy or solving some business process, one of the things that we do is we try to keep bringing those things back into what we need to do from the perspective of inner sourcing and social coding and collaboration. And I just can't say enough that when we talked yesterday about where the tools are that allows this, the bar has really been lowered. It's amazing when you're in an environment and you see your CTOs and your senior managers that are in doing pull requests in GitHub, right? And for me, as I'm trying to drive some of these platforms and some of these strategies, the openness is there, right? The quick ability to turn around and to solve problems. And so while we're recasting the developer, we're recasting our working styles, we're doing it in such a way that's so transparent that if I've got an issue with tools or with process or investments that's needed, it's in a way where I've got the people that are closest to our CEOs that are actively in these environments. So I want to tell you that this is something that's incredibly exciting at DXE, and I want to encourage you while you're here, do a lot of collaboration and connections. I just talked to a few people that were using bots to drive their inner sourcing strategy, really in a soft way to really bring awareness, and I'm going to get that code from him. So, so I want to tell you, make sure you guys are collaborating and tap somebody, introduce yourself, because it's pretty powerful. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Jason, but thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Did y'all catch that number? 170,000 people inside DXE. How long do you think a choice has to last in there? You want to change things every 6 months for 170,000 people? Anyone go through change management in their companies these days? You want to roll out even a small program and how much pre-work you have to do to get to that? It's kind of amazing to see what people are doing on GitHub for software development inside their large organizations. And that's kind of what we believe. We believe that GitHub is ultimately, it's a force for change. There's incredible potential there for developers, teams, enterprises, and integrators alike. You can change your culture, you can change your products, you can change even your company's future with these things. We've been seeing a lot of people start to tap into that potential this year with some amazing new features. So what did we launch this year? GitHub for Business was launched this year with a GraphQL API endpoint. We've been working really hard on this. And when we talk about the platform, this is one of those things that we teased at last year as what would be coming. So GraphQL is one of those things that not only shifted what we're building, but kind of how we're building it. And we're building it out more in the open. And now last Universe, we talked about these numbers. We talked about that we were going to be building out in the open with the GraphQL endpoint. And we showed you what it would be like if we could go together on this journey, if we could build the ecosystem and the platform together. So at Satellite in May, if anyone was watching, we had 125 million daily queries in GraphQL. As of this morning, we're over 201 million queries. That's a pretty dramatic growth in a short amount of time. What that really shows, though, is the health and kind of robustness of that platform, as well as the scale that we're operating at the moment. And we only expect that to increase more as we open up more things with the APIs, obviously. So how is that possible? Well, it's possible because of the ecosystem and the platform. We all have access to the same APIs, and I want to keep reinforcing that GitHub engineers and every engineer in this room have access to the same APIs. We want to do that intentionally because we want to push the boundaries of what we can do. Naturally, you all get the same benefit of that. Together in an open ecosystem and on an open platform, we can build on each other, with each other, and for each other. And so what do I mean about this open ecosystem approach? Well, it fundamentally is that in order for us to help our customers and for you to help your customers, we're helping each other as well. And we're building this together. Our data that we sit on comes out to you. We flow back. It works. What's the open platform then? Well, again, we have access to the data. We want to give you access to the data. We have access to API endpoints. We want to give you access to these API endpoints. We don't want to be the ones that build every single solution. We want you to find what's important to you and your customers and your businesses and build those solutions. And we think that makes a healthy ecosystem. We think that improves all of software development for everybody together. That is what we think we can create together. We can create the future. And this is what makes GitHub unique. With one choice for GitHub, you can unlock limitless possibilities. This one choice opens up the entire world of software development to you. We want to build that with you together. So, if that future for you involves launching a business, and we believe it does, and we've seen it, that involves launching a business on GitHub in the marketplace. The marketplace is already allowing teams to benefit from this open ecosystem and open platform, and it's already changing how developers build onto or into GitHub. So we launched Marketplace back in May. My slide says we're overwhelmed by the success of Marketplace. I'm going to freestyle and say surprised to a degree. But I think you can see why it happened so quickly. We were expecting it to take a little longer, and it happened very fast. Why did it happen so fast? 24 million developers want access to your applications. They want them now. They want to make their lives better. They need that. There are 9.3 million developers with at least one integration. Over a third of the GitHub user base has an integration installed right now. That's over 4 million more since Marketplace was launched in May. And it's not just individual developers using integrations, it's teams. So we have over 1.5 million teams on GitHub that use GitHub to collaborate, to release software, and to build together. These teams have direct access to Marketplace and the open source economy. 60% of those teams have at least one integration installed. And with free Marketplace trials that we announced yesterday, we expect this adoption to increase pretty quickly. So as we grow, we'll continue to see the Marketplace with more data. We'll release more APIs to the systems. Our powerful workflows and deployment tools and APIs will become more robust. We'll find out what people want access to more, and we'll build those. So as we grow, we expect to see more companies build around this open platform. Now, the really exciting thing is that this is already happening. So Codacy is one of the most popular GitHub apps, and they've built a thriving business on top of the Marketplace. So to tell you a little bit more about that, I'm going to bring Jamie George from Codacy to the stage. Jamie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie George, CEO and co-founder of Codacy. And I'm here to tell a little bit about our story and journey. So we started a company with a main mission, which was to help developers at scale. My co-founder and I started a company back in Portugal in 2014, and we raised $500,000 to get our first product to the market. And we were really inspired by GitHub as a company and product. And so we surveyed more than 700 companies and asked, what is your biggest problem in software development? And the answer is, it depends on who you ask. So developers really care about technical debt, where developer managers really care about speed of delivery. This fundamental difference in perception about what is the biggest problem can create some tension. But for us as a company, it's actually what's really exciting. And so we want to help people manage their code quality and technical debt while deliver software on time, or as we call it, productivity through quality. However, we were not an overnight success. And so we learned the hard way that actually the biggest client base that we have is in the US, and we didn't have a network in the very beginning. Also, we learned that developers are a very demanding audience. And so building a developer tool-focused company, you cannot fake a product. And so these two factors, along with many others, made for our journey to be longer than we expected. However, we persisted. We focused on product over growth. Essentially, that meant I would come here and talk to 3 developers per day for the last 2 years. And also, we explained to our investors, who were very patient, that we had to focus more on the product and take a step back to build really a great company. And that's what we did. And so over time, our product started improving dramatically. And it all culminated in the launch of Codacy in the GitHub Marketplace. So we were invited, really honored, to be the first partners in terms of quality in the GitHub Marketplace, and that was paramount to our success as well. And just to very quickly describe what we do and how we do it, we centralize the most important quality metrics of a company. So static code analysis, code coverage, code duplication, code complexity, and give you insights so you can make great engineering decisions. You can dive deep into how each pull request affects overall code quality, as well as seeing delta information about any one of these metrics. Finally, security is baseline of our product, so you can see any one of these alerts, security alerts, inside your workflow. And so mapping back to these results, we see that developers now have a way to continuously manage technical debt while having an extra reviewer of their pull request and code, while developer managers are able to ship 6% faster on a sprint, which is fantastic. So finally, our mission is to help developers at scale be more productive through quality. We have more than 500 customers spread out throughout the whole world. Because of the launch as well in the GitHub Marketplace, we were able to raise $5 million in UVC funding. And I'm really happy and excited to tell you today that we're the top grossing company in the GitHub Marketplace as well. So, yeah. So GitHub has been paramount to our success as a company and to our vision. We're Codacy, and we're just getting started. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie. That's pretty cool, right? Company launching the marketplace, getting funded. I would like to see companies IPO out of the marketplace. I'd like to see companies get acquired out of the marketplace. I think we're going to measure how successful we are with our marketplace by how well you all do in it. Not how well we do, but how well you all do. If you think about that, that's what an ecosystem looks like. That's what a healthy partnership model looks like. So if you write code, we want you to be an integrator on us. If you care about code, we want you to love and use GitHub. And if you care about the future of software, we want to build that future with you. So earlier this week, I was talking to some of our amazing partners and customers about what that future looks like. And what you heard today and yesterday is just the beginning of where that software development process will take you and us together. So we want to empower you all to build the world's best integrations to make that future reality. We want you to love what you do and do it on GitHub and find that passion and that product fit and launch it in a marketplace or use our data to do something powerful for the entire ecosystem. So we want to do this together with you. We want to bring the best monitoring solutions to developers around the world. We want to bring the best alerting, and we want to bring the best workflows and CI tools. We want to do that with you all together. So let's bring that. Let's bring the new interesting ways we can package and deploy from GitHub together. There's a lot of things that we can do. So this ecosystem is built by all of you on this platform for all of you. We want to do this with you. So as developers, as integrators, and as teams, we're better together. And that is what we want to build. So thank you, everybody, for a fantastic day 2 kickoff. I'm going to end. I'm going to try to become a meme, apparently. Get Twitter, I'm supposed to do this, and somebody's going to Photoshop orbs in my hand. Can we make that happen? I've never been popular. So thank you all. It's been amazing. I look forward to seeing you all today. Thank you.